As ever, if anyone has any idea of what I've missed in here, if there's something massively profound that I should have picked up on and I didn't, I would love to hear about it. This week I have read the book of Joel, the prophet from the Old Testament, but this is only chapters 1 to 3, that's the whole book. It's 4 pages in the Bible, so I'm not sure I've saved you a massive amount of time there. It's one of those ones, it's difficult to know why this is in here, because it doesn't seem to bring anything particularly new to the party, as it were. But again, you always have that issue that if someone put this in the Bible, then they've obviously looked at it and gone, well, the Bible is better off with this in it than it is without it. It doesn't particularly add very much, but it doesn't detract either. And I suppose there's an argument that if you had stuff that does fit in it and is coherent, then why would you not have it in there? Albeit there are the Apocrypha, the bits that the Catholics have in their Old Testament that the Protestants don't in theirs, or Church of England, whatever. So, yeah, I don't quite know how that distinction is made. Well, I guess there's an argument for perhaps I should read the Apocrypha, but I'm not particularly planning on doing that, partly because I'm just eager to get on to doing the New Testament now. One of the interesting things about Joel is it seems to be potentially the earliest written prophet. And if we show the graphic from last week that we looked at, you can see Joel there around about 800 BC, so before even the fall of the northern kingdom to, northern, southern, whichever one it is, the Israel part of the equation, to the Assyrians. This one has a question mark next to it in terms of when it was written. And it's interesting in that respect because there's no specific prophecy in here. It's not actually predicting events that would make people think that perhaps it was actually written later. So I think there's just hints in it that seem to help date it to roughly that period, but don't seem to know. And I guess that explains why it's got a question mark next to it. I don't think that particularly matters anyway, but yeah. So it opens talking about this big swarm of locusts coming, and it seems to be, over the 4 pages, it sort of takes in the whole idea of the Old Testament in some ways, in theory terms rather than practical terms, in that people need to sort out what they're doing, because it talks about the Israelites having traded boys for prostitutes and traded girls for wine. Again, tying into that whole idea that the Israelites are behaving extraordinarily badly. And that's why this is coming. It talks about the day of the Lord, which seems to be some sort of idea of Judgment Day. So that's definitely built into there as well, and consistent with everything else around it as well. But overall, I guess it's a long, waffly, quite poetic version of the idea that the Israelites need to quit what they're misbehaving doing, sort themselves out, and then God will look after them. But obviously that doesn't happen, as we know now. But there's not a great deal more I can think of to say than that, which is slightly awkward because as I mentioned in the previous video, I'm doing a live event where I'm going to have to talk about the Old Testament, and so we'll probably just skip over Joel because it doesn't seem to add very much. There is an interesting part in this actually that's worth mentioning here, is that I become aware of a distinction in how the Old Testament appears. So if I show you this part, you can see where it's a solid block of text. Apparently this is the idea that this is prose, so it's just talking about stuff. But most of the book of Joel is this bit where you've got these funny offset lines and all the rest of it, which apparently seems to denote that it's poetry, which perhaps to some extent explains why I'm having a bit of trouble with it. Admittedly also, this is where I was actually reading this, so perhaps I was a little distracted in terms of my surroundings. And as I said, admittedly, I'm perhaps sort of hurrying a little bit now as well, because I just want to get this thing done and move on. But yeah, so that is the book of Joel, as far as I can see. So yeah, we've got a few more of these smaller minor prophets to go. I've read several ahead, and it all seems to be a similar sort of idea, but trying to pull out what the distinctive flavours of each one is, as it were. And as I said before, I'm going to release these videos in quick succession because basically I want to get them all out before doing that live event on the 11th of June. As ever, if anyone has any idea of what I've missed in here, if there's something massively profound that I should have picked up on and I didn't, I would love to hear about it. But yeah, otherwise on to the book of Amos next, and we'll see what's in that.